There is a very specific type of silence that happens when you decide to build wealth quietly. It isn't the silence of someone hiding a terrible secret. It is the silence of someone who has realized that explaining the truth would require a conversation that nobody in their life is actually prepared to have. Let's look at a case study. Let's say there is someone named Thomas. Thomas is 42 years old. Last Thursday evening, his mother called him to ask if he needed money. She didn't call because there was an emergency. She didn't call because Thomas had complained about his finances. She called simply because she had noticed that his car is now 7 years old. She noticed he hasn't taken a major vacation in 2 years. And the last time he came home for a holiday dinner, he wore the exact same winter jacket he had worn the year before. So she called. She offered the money quietly, with a careful softness in her voice that told him she had been worrying about this for a long time. Thomas thanked her. He told her he was fine. She didn't fully believe him, but the strange part, the part that defies almost everything modern culture teaches us about money, is that Thomas didn't correct her. He didn't try to prove her wrong. He just let the assumption sit there between them on the phone. This quiet, unbroken belief that he was just getting by. If Thomas had wanted to, he could have opened his laptop while they were talking. He could have read her the balance of the checking account that holds a 2-year emergency fund. He could have told her about the retirement accounts he has maxed out for 15 consecutive years. He could have told her that, 14 months ago, his net worth quietly crossed $3.2 million. But he said nothing. He let her keep her worried, and he kept his silence. This is what a deeply calm financial life actually looks like from the outside. More often than not, it looks like absolutely nothing. We are conditioned to believe that wealth must announce itself. If you are doing well, society expects you to provide visual proof. You are supposed to upgrade the car, expand the house, and wear the evidence of your success. Because of this, we naturally assume that a lack of new things equals a lack of money. But when you look closely at the people who have built unbreakable, multi-generational stability, you notice a completely different behavioral pattern. They don't argue about their status. They don't correct people's assumptions. Today, we are going to explore the psychology of the gap, the immense space between what people assume about you based on what you drive and the quiet reality of what you actually hold. We will look at why financially calm people let others be wrong about them, and why doing the same might be the smartest money move you ever make. Thomas's story did not start with a massive inheritance or a tech startup. It started in his late 20s on a quiet Sunday afternoon, very much like the one where I first opened my own paper notebook to face my $6,200 debt. At 26, Thomas was making $54,000 a year at a mid-sized logistics company. After paying his rent, his car payment, and his student loans, he had about $400 left at the end of the month. He realized very quickly that $400 a month wasn't going to build a wall between him and the uncertainties of the world. Not at that rate, and certainly not with the raises he could reasonably expect. Normally, when someone gets their first real promotion, a predictable psychological cycle begins. It is called lifestyle creep. You get a raise, and suddenly the apartment feels a bit too small, so you upgrade. The old car feels a bit too unreliable, so you finance a new one. The groceries shift from whatever is cheapest to whatever you simply want. According to data from the Federal Reserve Bank, for the vast majority of households, discretionary spending tends to rise almost proportionally with every increase in income. None of it feels like reckless spending. It just feels like you earned it. It feels like you are finally living. But Thomas made one singular decision that Sunday afternoon. He didn't decide to start a complicated side hustle. He didn't become a day trader. He just decided to stop inflating his life. He decided to keep the apartment. He kept the car. And he redirected every single raise, every bonus, and every extra dollar directly into accounts that were not his checking account. Here's the quiet part most people miss. Every time you upgrade your visible lifestyle to match your new income, you are effectively resetting your wealth building clock back to zero. You are quietly trading your future freedom for the immediate approval of the people around you. When Thomas got a promotion to $72,000 at age 29, the new number felt significant for exactly 3 days. Then the emotional high faded. He did the math and he moved on. He increased his investments to the legal maximum and lived exactly as he had the week before. His family noticed the car wasn't changing. His sister asked if everything was okay at his company. He smiled and said yes, everything was fine. The second phase of quiet wealth involves navigating what psychologists call frozen mental models. Your family's perception of you is usually set somewhere around age 24. That is the version of you they keep updating in small, incremental ways, but they never fully revise the foundation. In their minds, Thomas is still the 20-something guy trying to find his footing. In their picture, he is doing okay, but not great. He is the one who thinks twice before a big purchase, who drives the same car too long, and who doesn't talk about money because they assume he doesn't have much to say. They are not wrong about the car. They are not wrong about the vacations. What they are entirely wrong about is the conclusion. They think the car is old because he cannot afford a new one. The car is actually old because Thomas understands the math of the depreciation curve. He knows that a brand new vehicle loses somewhere between $4,000 and $7,000 in value the moment the tires leave the dealership lot. And he knows that taking that same $5,000 and investing it in a boring index fund over 15 years compounds into a number that makes the new car smell significantly less interesting. This requires accepting the boring middle. If you work in a corporate environment, you know the conversations. People stand around the office talking loudly about which specific sector is positioned for the next quarter or which cryptocurrency is going to double. Thomas listened to those conversations. He nodded, and he said nothing. His portfolio had no opinions. He bought broad index funds, not because he had done deep, secret research, but because he had read enough to understand that he didn't know enough to pick individual stocks. He knew that the cost of being wrong was far greater than the cost of being boring. So, he was intentionally boring. The day his net worth crossed $100,000, there were no fireworks. He was standing in the cereal aisle at the grocery store when he checked his phone and saw the number. He stood there for a moment. He put the phone back in his pocket. He bought the store brand cereal and he went home. Nobody knew. Building a life this way can sometimes feel a bit lonely, especially when the world is constantly shouting about overnight success. If you find value in having a quiet corner of the internet to think about money differently, the subscribe button is right there. It is the only way this channel continues to grow, and I would love to have you with us. As Thomas entered his late 30s, the math began to do the heavy lifting. The accounts he had been feeding without interruption started generating returns that rivaled his actual salary. But what nobody tells you about building wealth quietly is that the silence compounds the exact same way the money does. Every single year that passes without you explaining your finances makes the conversation infinitely harder to have. Thomas has turned this over in his mind many times. Why not just tell his parents? Why not show them the spreadsheet so they stop worrying? Because the gap between their version of him and the actual version has grown wide enough now that correcting it wouldn't just be an update, it would be a reveal. And reveals carry an immense psychological weight. They rearrange things. They force the people around you to recalibrate who they have been dealing with. And that recalibration, however small, permanently changes the texture of the relationship. You have probably seen it happen. A friend turns out to have significantly more money than anyone assumed. Suddenly, the dynamic in the room shifts just slightly. There's an unspoken question about who should pay for dinner. There's a quiet expectation when someone faces a hardship. Nobody means for it to happen. It just does. Gravity changes when money enters the room. So Thomas stays quiet. When his father recently mentioned he had seen a great deal on a used truck and carefully offered to help with the down payment, Thomas didn't get offended. He saw it exactly for what it was. A father trying to protect his son in the only way he knew how. Thomas told him he appreciated it deeply, but the old car was running just fine. When Thomas drove away, he saw his father looking at the old car in the driveway, with that quiet concern. Thomas accepted the burden of being misunderstood in order to protect the absolute simplicity of his family dynamic. There is a question underneath all of this. It is the question that people who prefer loud wealth will always ask. What is the point? If nobody knows you have it, if your life from the outside looks like someone who is just getting by, and if you aren't spending it on luxury, then what exactly have you been building toward? Thomas has spent more time on this question than almost any other. The answer is not the same as it was when he was 26. At 26, he was just trying to stop the bleeding. He was trying to interrupt a pattern he saw playing out in everyone around him. Decades passing, leaving people more comfortable, but no more free. At 42, with a multi-million-dollar spreadsheet, he finally understood what he was actually after. It was never about the number itself. It was about the absence of weight. That is what quiet wealth actually buys you. It buys you the reality that a medical bill stops being a catastrophic emergency and simply becomes an administrative task. It means a slow quarter at work doesn't completely rearrange your nervous system. It gives you the ability to make a decision based on what you actually want, rather than what you can currently afford to survive. That is what $3 million bought Thomas. Not status, not the admiration of strangers at a stoplight, just the quiet, unbreakable fact that money no longer manages him. He manages it. If you are on this path, or if you are feeling the pressure to upgrade your life just to prove you are doing well, here's how you can practice quiet wealth this week. First, practice letting people be wrong about you. If someone assumes you are struggling because you didn't buy the latest phone or upgrade your car, do not correct them. Let the assumption sit there. You will be amazed at the amount of peace you find when you stop defending your financial reality to people who don't pay your bills. Second, intercept your next transition. The next time you get a raise, a tax refund, or a bonus, enforce a rule. 50% of that new money gets automatically routed to an investment account before it ever touches your checking account. Do not let your lifestyle absorb it. Third, redefine your goal. Stop looking at wealth as a visible object you need to acquire and start looking at it as a reduction of weight. Name the specific stress you want to eliminate and let that be the reason you keep your ledger quiet. Thomas hung up the phone with his mother. He sat in the exact same apartment he has lived in for 9 years. Same furniture, same quiet view from the window. His retirement accounts are fully maxed. His brokerage portfolio hasn't needed his active attention in years. His savings buffer exists purely so that nothing in his life ever becomes urgent. The old car is parked in the lot downstairs. The store brand cereal is in the cupboard. And not one person in his life has any idea what his spreadsheet actually says. That's not a rule. That's just what worked for him. See if it works for you. Subscribe if you want to keep thinking this way with me, and I'll see you in the next one. Quiet doesn't mean small.